Welcome to the ExpandHer podcast with myself, Sarah-Louise Sutton. I am an intuitive energy healer, channel, Reiki teacher, coach, and mentor, and founder of the Inspirit School of Energy, here to help you on your spiritual journey, to up-level your vibration, to activate your soul and purpose, and ultimately elevate your life and business. It is my intention that through myself and special guests, talking about all things intuition, guidance, channeling, manifesting, healing, and energetics, that you get expanded, you feel inspired, and you receive a giant hug for your soul. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and it is from my heart to yours that I am sending you so much love. Hello, welcome back to the ExpandHer podcast. Thank you so much for being here as always. And I am recording this from my beautiful home in Bali. And yeah, I've just spent the last few weeks, I want to say settling in, but then Bali has this really weird energy where when you come back, it's kind of like you never left. It's like this weird time warp portal, I swear. And so other than jet lag, yeah, it feels like I settled in really quickly. But I've spent the last few weeks catching up with friends, just enjoying the sun, enjoying the peace, enjoying all that Bali has to offer. And here I am now recording this episode, and this episode has been very inspired by a question box I put on my stories a few weeks ago. So basically, I asked on my Instagram, what would you ask your spirit guides if you could ask anything? Like, what would you ask? And the answers were so good, and I instantly knew that I could share an episode on kind of, I don't want to say optimizing, that sounds really weird to say when we're talking about spirit guides, but it's also kind of the best word for the job here, of maybe shifting, let's say instead, the questions that are being asked to actually get the best answers from your spirit guides. Because there really is a way of kind of communicating with spirit guides that really helps you get the most guidance, like the most guidance and the most helpful guidance and the most empowering guidance. And so when I was kind of reading back a lot of the answers, it just felt very clear that I was like, oh, I can definitely do an episode about this. And that is exactly what I'm doing. Because like I said, there's definitely a way of communicating that really does give you a lot more in return when it comes to our spirit guides. So just to give you kind of an idea of the sort of answers that I was getting, and obviously I'm not referring to anyone specific here, there were a lot of answers that were all very similar. I also just want to say that. But a lot of the kind of answers that I was getting were things like, is X, Y, or Z going to happen? So like, am I going to get married, for example? Or am I going to get the job? Or am I going to do X, Y, Z? Like there was a lot of questions kind of like this. And I think that these are kind of normal questions to throw out to our guides. There's nothing wrong with these questions in the sense that I think it's very common to ask these questions. However, our guides are so much more, I'm trying to think of the right word, expansive, so much more expansive than giving kind of predictions. So I think the first thing I want to say here is that although it's very easy to assume, and I definitely did, before I was a channel for spirit guides, this is how I thought of it, but I used to assume that essentially my guides knew how everything was going to play out. And if anything, my guides were kind of impacting that, right? So my guides knew when things were going to happen. They knew how things were going to happen. They knew if things were going to happen. And they had a big part to play in that. It was kind of like my guides were playing God, right? That kind of energy. But as soon as I started channeling guides and communicating to spirit a lot more, that what I used to think completely changed. Like, it did a complete 180. It is now very clear to me that our guides don't play that role. Our guides aren't, the puppet masters. They're not pulling strings. They're not influencing our life in the way that I used to assume anyway. And so it's not like there is one path for us. There's not one route for us. There's not everything written down written in the stars or, written in stone. There's not like one route in our life that we are just walking along that's already been kind of carved out. Instead, what is so clear to me now is that there are infinite timelines available to us at any one moment. Any one moment. There are infinite amount of timelines, and a lot of people believe, and also this is also a huge possibility, that they're all happening at the same time on some level too. But I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm just going to go into the fact that instead of there just being one path that we are on, there are truly infinite amount of possibilities ahead of us. And essentially, which timeline we are on is completely governed by our energy in this very moment. So if you imagine a scale from like going from 1 to 100, but know that this scale is technically and actually infinite, but each kind of number on that scale is relating to a completely different timeline. Now, some of those timelines may be dramatically different to another. Some may just be slightly different. Some may have like the same outcome. For example, a very set type of success or abundance received or amount of joy in your life, etc., etc. But they might have just had a slightly different route there. Some might have so much more ease and grace, but still the same outcome. Some may have just more of a challenging journey to the same outcome. Like, they aren't all necessarily dramatically better or worse, but they will be slightly different, and that might just be a slight difference. It might be a huge difference, but ultimately there will be timelines that are more in alignment. There will be timelines that are more in alignment with your highest potential, and generally those will be more enjoyable, more easeful than others, because that is our highest truth, is that we can have ease and we can have grace on any path that we are on. And so it's not, like I said, it's not that there's certain ones that are better or worse, it's just they're different. And, also there's not just 100, right? There's truly infinite possibilities on the timelines that you can get on. But depending on where you are energetically right now on this scale, let's say, is going to dictate ultimately which timeline you have just jumped onto. And, although that makes it seem very black and white, it really isn't quite as black and white. There is obviously a lot of nuance to that, but I'm just trying to kind of paint a visual for you in terms of like the timelines that are available here. But ultimately it comes down to that in every single moment, you have complete free will as to which one you are on. That is all in your hands. So your guides, although they could tell you and guide you in terms of what timeline you're on now and where you might be heading, what might be available to you right now on that timeline, ultimately, the only person, the only thing, the only energy, the only entity that is dictating what happens next is you. And that's both a really great thing, but also a not so great thing, right? Because it means it's our responsibility. And so I think a lot of people are excited about that. A lot of people are like, oh, damn, that means this is down to me. And I get that, right? It is a good thing and it is a bad thing. But the point is There is nothing else more powerful dictating your future than you. It's you, all you, and your energy right now in this moment. Like I said, your guides can tell you what timeline you're on now and what might happen now and what's in your current energetic field. They can for sure see, feel, and also impact that, right? Our guides can help us hugely on this journey. They can help influence our energy, our vibration. They can absolutely help. I've done a whole podcast episode on that, which I will put in the show notes in case you haven't listened. But the point is it's us and our energy now that is dictating which timeline we are on, what is happening in our life. And so in terms of what's going to happen in your career or your business or your romantic relationship, it's not down to them. It is down to you. And so our guides aren't there to help us predict our future or tell us what will or won't happen. Our guides' job, so to speak, is essentially, and this is just what I have felt by communicating with them as often as I do and connecting with spirit in general as much as I do, their job is to just always help us come back to who and what we are. And what I mean by that is to help us remember that we are an infinite soul with infinite potential, with the same power that has created worlds and planets and every single thing on this earth. Like, to remind us of the power that we are, the power that we have, and to remind us that we are that having a human experience. And so our guides are always there to guide us back to our alignment, ultimately, right? To remember who and what we are. Their job is to always bring us back to that truth, to bring us back to our highest alignment. And so their job is to help us get on the highest timeline available. That's their job. Not to tell us necessarily what is about to happen, but to help us get into alignment with one of the highest timelines that are available. That is their role. And when we are actually asking them what is going to happen, or thinking that they're calling the shots, or wanting them to kind of tell you the outcome of things, this is another way of essentially giving your power away. Because that is what is happening if you put all of your life, your outcome, what happens, what doesn't happen, in the hands of something or someone else. It is giving your power away, and your guides would never want that. This comes through all the time with clients, and it's happened many times with myself, of where my guides or my clients' guides want you to take the power back into your hands, in the sense of, don't give anyone or anything, any spirit, that power over your own life, because it is all in your hands. Like, taking that power back. This world of spirituality is not meant to be disempowering. And if your spiritual beliefs feel disempowering, then there is definitely some shifts that can be made in how you're seeing things to bring the power back into your hands. Because spirituality is meant to be empowering. It's not meant to be giving your power to something or someone else. It's all in your hands. And so when you're communicating with spirit guides, any spirit, you want to be treating them as a guide. Exactly as their name is like, they are guides. They are guiding you to your highest timeline, right? A little bit like if you were doing a hike and you're going up a mountain or whatever, and you've got a guide in front of you, that guide is showing you the way to the highest peak. That is what your guides are doing. They are showing you the way to your highest timeline. And your highest timeline is accessible when you are absolutely embodying the truth, the deepest truth of your pure potential, and remembering as often as humanly possible who and what you are, and that you have all of this potential, all of this power in your hands, and you are having this human experience. Like, that's their job. So we get to communicate with them and ask them questions as a guide and not as, just something that is controlling your life or just knows things in that way. We get to use them and ask them questions like, if you had, a mentor or this person climbing up this peak with you and is guiding the way. That is how we get to talk to our guides. And I know for me, this is not what I thought when I first started kind of exploring this world of spirit guides. Like I said at the beginning, this has completely changed for me since actually working with them. And I think as long as you remember this and remember their role and remember your role and remember these infinite timelines that are available, the questions that you ask will instantly change and be more helpful to you and to that kind of connection between you and your spirit guides. Because as soon as you talk to them like they are a guide, and as soon as you talk to them as in, how can I get on the best timeline available, you're instantly going to just automatically be asking better questions, right? That can actually really support you and give you guidance. And I think as well, the world of kind of old school tarot readers and people with a crystal ball, like the kind of people you see in movies and psychics in that kind of sense, that's kind of, I think, where this preconception of what our spirit guides are and do has kind of formed, right? Like, even when I read cards, I never read them in a way that's predictive. I always read cards in a way that's guidance. And even that is a big difference to what a traditional tarot reader might have done in the past. And so even if you are getting a reading from someone who is reading your field and telling you what might happen, they are always only ever giving you one option. They are only ever reading the timeline that you were on or giving you an option for another timeline. That is never set in stone also. Please know that. So if you've had a reading from someone and they're like, oh yeah, I see that you're going to get married and have 2 kids, that's one timeline they've picked up on. And that might be the current one you're on, more than likely, it normally is if they're reading your field. But they might have just picked up on another one. But there are also hundreds of timelines where you had 3 children or 4 children or 1 child, or you didn't have any children, or you didn't even get married, or you had a completely different relationship. Like, there are so many timelines available. And so, I do speak to a lot of people that have had readings and they've been kind of disempowering in the sense of they're an outcome that they didn't want, or they're an outcome that they're scared of, or it's not kind of what that person really wanted. And then there's this constant fear within them that this is what's going to happen. And that means if you're holding that as that's what's going to happen, you've just jumped on that timeline. So whenever you do have these sort of readings, it's very important that you instantly take your power back. If you want that timeline, great. Hold strong that that's what's going to happen. That's great. You're jumping on that timeline with that kind of knowing inside of you. But if it's not, you need to get off that timeline, as in, don't think that that's what's going to happen. Take your power back and you get to have a different outcome because it's in your hands. And so your guides would never want you to give your power away in that way. Your guides want you to remember your power. That's the point. That's what they're there for, is to help you remember the power that you hold, not to kind of take it even further away from you. And so asking questions with your guides as though they are a guide, helping you get onto a higher timeline. Like, this is how we want to be communicating to our spirit guides, to get the most from them, to get the most helpful answers and guidance from them, is literally treating them as a guide, that kind of person in front of you, walking you up that mountain to your highest potential. And so some examples of some questions that you could ask your guides might be, how can I create more joy in my life? Or how can I create more abundance in my life? Or how can I create more purpose, etc., etc.? Or it could be something along the lines of, show me how I can step into more of my potential. Show me how I can step more into success or abundance or be of service. Like, asking them questions of them guiding you or sharing with you ways that you can ultimately change your energy, take actions in a different way in order to step into a different timeline. So some other questions could be like, thank you for guiding me to the most easeful, graceful path towards abundance or success or love or joy, for example, like whatever it is that you're calling in. Thank you for showing me the most effortless journey towards X, Y, or Z. Because remember, on these timelines, it might be that the outcomes are the same, but the path there isn't, right? And there's always an easier path available. Like the belief that we have to struggle to get somewhere great is a limiting belief. Like there is always an easy path somewhere. Like easy doesn't mean it's playing small. Easy doesn't mean that you're not pushing boundaries or pushing comfort zones. Like, of course, there might always be some resistance when you're doing something really outside of your comfort zone, but ultimately know that you can get somewhere great with a really easeful route. Like there is a lot out there at the moment that kind of says that we have to go through challenges to grow. We have to go through struggles to do X, Y, Z, and we can absolutely grow through struggles, but know that we can also grow and expand hugely through ease and grace. So we can also ask our guides to show us this path. Show us the path of ease and grace. Show us how I can have the most success if you've got a business or abundance that's the most easeful and graceful and effortless. Like you can ask them to help you with this kind of thing too. And don't forget, they can help you with so many things. They can help you embody the energy that you need to get there, right? They're not just actually guiding you. They can help you with this too. They can help clear your energy. They can help you cultivate different frequencies and energies. They can fill you with so much love, so much confidence. Like they help you on this journey too. But only when you're kind of asking the right questions and leaning on them in this way will you be able to receive that. So yeah, you can ask them for guidance towards your most easeful, effortless, graceful route to whatever it is that you're kind of aiming for right now. And like I said before, you can ask them to guide you to your most abundance or more success or more love, more joy, whatever it is, again, that you're calling in. You can also ask them what energy right now is going to bring you more joy. What energy can you cultivate right now that would bring you more love? What energy right now is blocking you from achieving X, Y, or Z? These are some other questions that you can kind of reframe. Still going to bring you a similar answer, but it's just kind of asking it in a different way. And I guess it depends in how you plan on tuning into them as to what framing of the question is going to help support you the most. So what I mean by that is if I'm using Oracle or Tarot cards to connect to my guides, which is one big way I do that, is I might ask them to show me which energy is going to support me to get X, Y, or Z. Because the tarot cards are going to talk to me through energy, right? I'm going to see a card that represents an energy and I'm going to know what that means. If, however, I was planning on sitting down and channeling my guides and I personally receive words, so I'm clairaudient, which means I get words come through, like I hear words, then I would reframe my question differently so that I actually get a different kind of answer from them. Now, you might not currently know how to channel. You can channel, that I want you to know. You might not know how to channel specifically. And so for you, it might be to use cards, in which case, like I said, kind of asking the questions in a way of the cards are going to be able to tell you that answer. But also you can ask your guides to show you the signs towards your highest abundance. Like, show me the way that's going to lead me to my highest abundance, or show me the signs that are going to bring me the most love in my life, or help me cultivate the most self-love in my life, for example. And you can ask for signs, and this is where you then need to remain quite open in your everyday life to be looking out for signs. Now, what I want to say here is, if you're going to be asking for signs from your guides, like you're asking for your guides to kind of show you the way through signs, then your guides know how you would be able to receive signs. They know what would be the clearest to you. So if you end up having to Google things and find out things and go down these rabbit holes on the internet of trying to find out what this certain insect meant, or X, Y, or Z men, or certain angel numbers, then it's a high chance that's not your guides communicating to you, because your guides know how you receive information. Your guides know what would be the most obvious sign for you. And so when it comes to signs, what I normally say is that unless you instantly know what something meant, it probably wasn't a sign. The signs that your guides would send would be that kind of instant knowing exactly what something was representing for you. So maybe you already work with angel numbers, and so your guides would easily communicate through angel numbers with you. Maybe you know a lot about animal meanings and kind of symbolism of animals, in which case, yeah, easy, your guides could communicate with you that way. But if you don't know these things and you'd end up Googling them and going down rabbit holes on the internet for them, it's probably not how your guides are going to communicate with you with signs. They're probably going to show you another way. And don't forget, when it comes to kind of things like signs, a very easy way that our guides work and get a message through to us is through and via other people. So you might be like looking on Google for like what this insect you just saw meant, but someone's talking to you about something and you're completely ignoring it, thinking the insect was the sign, but actually it's the person that's trying to talk to you that's giving you a message without them realizing it. And also you're not realizing it. So remember, when it comes to signs, be open to them coming in ways that you don't realize, but know that you will know that it was a sign when it comes through. You won't have to be on Google trying to find out what it means. And the other thing is, whether or not you channel already actively, like you know that you channel, as in you know how to sit down and bring through that direct connection to your guides. If you ask them for guidance on something, start to also pay attention to really random thoughts that come through, because this is a way that our guides come through to us that might not be this direct connection of what you might call active channeling, but it's the way they come through. Because everyone can channel their guides, everyone can have this direct connection, but all the time it's actually our thoughts that are blocking it. It's our thoughts and our mind, our overactive mind, that is stopping us from being able to receive the messages that are already coming through to us. And so if you are kind of brushing your teeth, or you're like in the shower, these are common places they come through, and you have a really random idea or thought or this random bit of clarity, there is a high chance that that was just a message from your guides. And although you might not think that you just received a message, or that that's how it might come through, I can assure you these sort of messages are so often from your guides or from spirit. And so if you're asking for guidance, if you're asking for signs, if you're asking for them to help you step into something for your highest potential, then take note of signs, but also take note of these random thoughts and ideas that come through. Take note of those random bits of clarity that drop in, because this is also how they bring through messages to you. And a lot of the time that's easier for them than, you know, a sign in another way that you might have been expecting it. And so these are kind of some of the ways that we can actually receive the messages. Like, it's great actually asking the right questions with the right energy, but also, you know, these are some of the ways that we can actually communicate with them to get the actual guidance and the answers from them. So that was tarot and oracle cards, which I really do think are one of the easiest ways to communicate, because you can get so much information when you're asking the right questions. It was asking for signs, asking for guidance, and then looking out, being aware for the signs that come through, knowing they can come through in infinite amount of ways, but you will know when it comes through. But also keeping an eye out for those random thoughts and that clarity that comes through. And then also channeling, like actually building and creating that direct connection and actually channeling them. And although I get that coming through personally, audibly, like because I'm clairaudient, that might come through visuals for you if you're clairvoyant. It might come through as a knowing for you if you're claircognient, or it might come through like physically in your body and kind of more on an energetic level in your body if you are clairsentient. And I've got a podcast episode all about the different clairs and how information might be coming through for you through each of those. So I'll also put the link for that episode in the show notes, because that's a whole wonderful world on its own. You know, and I think just when in doubt, when it comes to questions and what to ask your guides, when in doubt, always ask, like, what is it that you can do to step into your highest potential? Or what is it that you can do to step into your highest timeline, that it's for your highest good and the highest good of all? I feel like this is just a great question to always use when in doubt, if you're not sure on the question itself. But yeah, it's always just kind of remembering that your guides ultimately are guiding you, right? And so just kind of asking them and giving them that energy of asking them the questions that are going to bring you the most guidance, that are going to be the most helpful for you in terms of what actions you need to take moving forward, or the energy that you need to embody moving forward, which is normally the answers that come through, because our energy is so much more powerful than our actions. And so it's kind of like framing and thinking about the energy behind your questions in this way, as this is what our guides do for us. And don't forget, your guides really do impact you and influence you in the sense of they can help you get there. Like, they really can. When you take the power back in your hands and you ask them to help support you reaching the next timeline, or reaching more abundance, or reaching more joy, or reaching more love, like, you can ask them to help you with that, and they can help you with that. That is where they can influence you and impact you. But yeah, please don't give your power away to anything or anyone for that matter, because truly you are the most impactful and influential person in your own life. That I can assure you. So I hope that this has given you something. If anything, just some inspiration to connect to your guides, because they really are the most magical. And also, just to announce, I'm also announcing this earlier than planned. I currently have a sale on my certification courses and bundles for the next 10 days-ish, but I'm not sure when I'm going to be releasing this episode. So I will put in the show notes the actual dates for the sale. But ultimately right now you can get 20% off my Reiki 1 certification, my Reiki 2 certification, or my Intuitive Energy Healer certification, and also my Intuitive Development course. So if channeling actually is something you would love to learn more about, and if you would actually love to start doing it, and also just open yourself up intuitively in so many other ways, then that course is amazing. It's not a certification course, but oh my goodness, it will change your life. So that is available also in this discount. I know it's not a certification course, but it is also included in this discount for 20% off. And also you can get 10% off the bundles. So if you wanted to buy Reiki 1 and 2 together, or Reiki 2 and the Intuitive Energy Healer together, or 1, 2 and the Intuitive Energy Healer together, then you can save 10% on the bundles, which are already discounted. So it's actually almost 30% off, like overall, because the bundles have already got a big discount on them. So yes, big sale, exciting sale. And also, this will be the last time you can jump into the certification courses for the next few months, because I'm actually going to be kind of experimenting a new way of managing the courses and my students. So at the moment you can kind of jump into them at any point, but as of this sale, and once I've closed this sale, I will be closing the doors and then reopening them every few months. Not set dates, it will be quite intuitive, but it won't be something that you can always jump into. So I'm just going to kind of see how this goes in terms of how it feels managing the courses and students in that way. So this will be the last time to jump in, like I said, for the next few months, and there is also a sale on it at the moment. So if you have been thinking about it, it's a pretty great time. So if you have any questions about the courses, if you would love to know more about them in the sense of like ask any questions, find out more about doing them, like multiple ones, any questions whatsoever, please just reach out. Like, I honestly want to help you make the right decision for you. So I am available. Just send me a DM or send me an email. I put the information in the show notes so you can do that. But yeah, also the Intuitive Development course is included as well, with currently 20% off. So yeah, exciting. So yeah, any questions, let me know. Any questions on this episode, also let me know. And as always, whenever you share this podcast, this episode, or leave a review, it helps me so much. So if you are able to do that, I would be extremely grateful. And just thank you for being here. Honestly, it means the world. I love my podcast. I hope it's helpful, and I hope it brings you something. So thank you so much for being here. And from the bottom of my heart, I hope you have the most wonderful rest of your day, and I'm sending you so much love.